What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another NFL Deep Dive where we're revealing my preseason power rankings, talking some Vegas picks, over-unders, division winners, and running through the depth charts, revealing strengths and weaknesses for each NFL team. And at number 6 now, how about a team that really doesn't have a lot of weaknesses in the Atlanta Falcons? While this on paper might be the best roster in football outside of probably New England, it's a team that I also question how good its strength is going to be when you compare it to last year. You lose Kyle Shanahan, my biggest question mark for this team. For me, the pinnacle of minds in football, the play action, the symmetry with Matt Ryan, the scheming guys downfield, the screens, everything was clicking last year. And a bit of a hot take here, I would not have let Kyle Shanahan go. I would have said, I'm sorry, Dan Quinn, you're fine. We need to keep Kyle Shanahan here. And I think that's going to show this year with some regression. For me, it's not a question of if they regress, it's a question of how much. Obviously, the Shanahan thing hurts, but this was a historic offense in general. Last year, they were set to regress no matter what. Personally, I think they come down about 7 points per game. They scored like 33 points per game last year. The loss of Shanahan's going to hurt, but just in general, they'll regress. So the question then becomes, how good is this defense going to be? And it's a really young unit, and we're really going to hit into that in the depth chart section. But you got a few other questions as well. You know, this was really the healthiest team in football towards the end of the year last year. They say get hot and healthy at the end of the year. That's how you win games in the playoffs. And then you got to wonder about the Super Bowl loss hangover. We've seen teams have devastating playoff losses in Green Bay, Carolina, Seattle. They've all had a hard time bouncing back from those tough losses. And while Atlanta is a younger team, probably more primed to bounce back than those other guys, you got to recapture that momentum. You cannot understate the importance of momentum. And they were just healthy last year. It's going to be very difficult for this team to get back to that point, which was at that third quarter in the Super Bowl. They were on top of the world. They were the best football team in the world until it collapsed. So I think that's reflected here at number 6. You got the upside of a crazy potential team here, but you also got some regression to be expected there. So Vegas has this team winning 9.5 games. It's an interesting mark. It's a little lower than I think a lot of people would expect. I think I lean on the side of over, but it's a bet I'm kind of staying away from just because I am projecting some regression here. If I'm going to make an over-under on a bet, it's usually a team that I'm very confident in, and I'm expecting regression here. I don't know how much they regress. They do play in a very tough division. That also doesn't help. I'm scared of the fact that this team was almost flawless in terms of health last year, and then you got the Matt Ryan factor. How good is he truly? We'll talk about him in a second. But I'm staying away from the over-under. I understand going over. I think 10 wins is a very good benchmark for this team. As far as the division goes, they are plus 170. They are the favorite. I'm really staying away from the NFC South in general. You got 4 good teams here. The Bucs have high hopes. Not sure how much I'm buying that. But you do got the Saints and Drew Brees. You can never count them out. They're really feeling that AP addition, I think. And then the Panthers are really going to be improved this year, getting healthier and some new additions to that offense. And I actually lean slightly Panthers, but I understand why you might want to go Falcons. The upside is crazy for this team. And then at 12-1 to win the Super Bowl, I think you know where I would side there. And what it really comes down to for me is Matt Ryan, which transitions nicely here into the depth chart. Matt Ryan, a good, not great quarterback. He definitely showed some plus traits that he hadn't shown in the past with that quick release and anticipation. Definitely making strides towards being an elite quarterback, but for me, he's not a game-wrecking quarterback. He's not a quarterback that can win a Super Bowl with an average team, which I think is a good qualifier for an elite quarterback. Now, he also showed some ability to extend plays. If he can start to do that more consistently, then I think we're going to start talking about him as an elite quarterback. For me, he does come down in my Madden roster from a 95 to an 89 because I think north of 90 is an elite quarterback, and there's a big differential between Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers. The vanilla roster, Matt Ryan is only 3 overall lower than Aaron Rodgers, which just doesn't really slide for me. But while he does come down, a lot of you know how high I am on a guy like Phillip Rivers. I do think Matt Ryan is better than Phillip Rivers now. Definitely impressed me last year. For those that remember, I really dropped Cam Newton after he won the MVP. It's not that type of a drop-off. I'm not going to say Matt Ryan is totally overrated, though I think there's some truth to that. But in general, not a guy that I'm comfortable betting on him to win a Super Bowl, especially if the rest of this team comes down a little bit. Anyway, let's move on to the running backs here. Devonta Freeman, total stud, gets paid, super happy for him. I have him as the 4th best running back in football, behind David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, and LaShawn McCoy. Total do-it-all guy. I mean, he'll juke you out, he'll run you over so fast. And then you got Tevin Coleman, maybe the most hyped backup running back outside of maybe Derrick Henry right now. I do question his ability to run between the tackles. I don't think we've seen him do that consistently yet. I don't know if that's something he does have in his game. It was a question about him coming out of college, but we should see him get an opportunity. Probably not here, barring injury, but a big payday somewhere else to be a starter. I don't think they can pay them both, especially with all the talent on this roster. They're going to have to start to pick and choose their contracts. Then you got Brian Hill, 5th round pick out of Wyoming, a guy a ton of writers liked. I didn't see a ton in him. I don't like love the athleticism, but a guy to keep your eye on for sure. And then at receiver, this is right there, probably the best receiving core in football. I really like the Bengals and the depth they have there over there in Cincinnati. But obviously Julio Jones, the best receiver in football. And I don't think there's too much discussion there for me. Mohamed Sanu, I think he is a super solid number 2, a guy that should have a good year this year, as he did last year. And then Taylor Gabriel. And now how good is Taylor Gabriel? He is a guy that was pretty much irrelevant, granted in Cleveland, but a guy that Kyle Shanahan made some magic out of. I think fantasy-wise, I'm totally staying away from Taylor Gabriel. I don't know how much I buy the talent. He's obviously fast. But how much does this new look offense capitalize on that? The efficiency was crazy for him. I would not be surprised if he scores half the amount of fantasy points as he did last year. And then Justin Hardy, also a 4th round pick from a few years ago, a guy that can play. So they're 4 deep here. And then it drops off. You got Andre Roberts they bring in, and really like 9 undrafted guys all competing. Personally, I don't know which one of these guys is going to make the roster there. And then at tight end, Austin Hooper. I think he's kind of primed for a nice season. A 3rd round pick from a few years ago, maybe even a breakout candidate, if you will, a good athlete. They let Jacob Tamme go, presumably to give Austin Hooper the starting job. They do not have a ton of depth behind him, anyone that's really going to push him, Toilolo, whatever. They take Eric Sobert in the 5th round, but Hooper should have every opportunity. A guy that I'm definitely drafting at the end of fantasy drafts, deeper leagues, a guy that could definitely finish as a top 10 tight end fantasy-wise. And then this offensive line, a group that I don't think gets nearly the respect it deserves. For me, it's a top 5 offensive line when healthy, and they were healthy last year. It's hard to expect them all to stay healthy again this year, but it's also difficult to say they're going to get hurt. So who knows? Jake Matthews, really solid left tackle. I don't know if he's ever going to be a top 10 left tackle. He's a little undersized, but a guy that comes up in my Madden rating regardless. A very pivotal part of this offense is Jake Matthews. Andy Levitre, that's a move that doesn't get enough credit by this front office. Going out and getting him, getting Alex Mack, shoring up the inside there. That's when this offense, along with the addition of Shanahan, obviously, really started to click. The right guard will be a new starter, but Wes Schweitzer, Sean Harlow, 4th round pick this year, will have the surroundings to succeed here. And then Ryan Schrader, one of the better right tackles in football. So a super solid offensive line. This offense in general should still be a top 10 offense, even if they do regress from that 33 points per game that they scored last year. And so the question, obviously, how good does this defense become? They had some struggles last year. It was not a good defense until maybe late in the playoffs, but even then we saw what happened at the end of the Super Bowl. This defense fell apart. So much inexperience out there. Almost every starter is a young player. So you start on the D-line. Vic Beasley, I'm going to stop short of calling him a superstar. I think he is actually a bit of a liability in run defense, but that valuable edge rusher. And then they take Talk McKinley in the 1st round, and that's not a move I liked. And this front office has sort of earned the benefit of the doubt, I suppose, but that's not a player that I liked. I don't think he's polished. I think this team is in a window right now where they can win right now, and I don't like a developmental prospect like McKinley. I thought I had a second-round grade on him. I really liked Carl Lawson. I actually had a first-round grade on, went in the 4th round. I loved TJ Watt. When they traded up, I thought that's where they were going, and I'd be really excited about this front 7 if that was the case. McKinley does have the upside to develop, but I don't think he's ready. I don't think he plays much at all, actually. You got Jack Crawford, comes over from Dallas as a signing I really liked. Thought he was a guy that earned a lot of playing time in Dallas that he didn't necessarily see all the time. Still got Brooks Reed there, Adrian Claiborne, Rashid Hageman, really nice players that will rotate between the DN spot and the D tackle spot. As we move inside here, Grady Jarrett, Dontari Poe, really intriguing duo there. You got Jarrett, his star kind of rising while Poe is falling. If those two can reach their potential, that's along with a bunch of guys behind them as a reason to be very optimistic about this defense. Courtney Upshaw, Derek Shelby, a ton of guys that can play on this D-line, though no superstars yet. Moving on to the linebackers. Left to right, this has the potential to be the most intimidating, dominant pair of trio of linebackers in the league. But they got a long way to go. These guys are all young. Deion Jones, obviously, the closest to reaching that. I don't know, maybe after 4 good games or so, I'm comfortable saying he's right there with Eric Kendricks and Quan Alexander as a top 10 linebacker. But then Devondre Campbell and Duke Riley. Campbell played well last year, but definitely's got a way to go. And then Duke Riley. And they say, LSU linebacker, yes, please, may I have another? They take Duke Riley, the guy that replaced Deion Jones at LSU. So a really intriguing group of linebackers, but how good are they going to be? And is that inexperience going to result in liabilities this year in a tough division? So we'll see, and they don't really have much depth behind those 3. So reason to be excited, but also reason to be concerned there for that really whole front 7. And then the secondary here, this group of corners is maybe the deepest, most talented group of corners in the league. As far as entire secondaries go, they're not quite there when the safeties get involved, but Robert Alford played awesome as the number 1 corner for this team last year, earns a big contract, and then Desmond Trufant comes back. Now Jalen Collins, however, gets suspended. So Trufant, obviously an upgrade from Collins, but you're definitely less excited about this secondary as Jalen Collins will be suspended for 10 games. You got Brian Poole and CJ Goodwin. These guys can play, but I think Jalen Collins is the 3rd best guy here. I will say, both younger and intriguing group of defenders all around them. Alford and Trufant could definitely emerge as the best 2 corners, the best cornerback duo in football, and maybe by the end of the year, maybe by the end of next year. The safeties, I think you got to pump the brakes a little bit on Keanu Neal. Obviously, a highlight reel guy. A lot of fans see those big hits and assume that he's a phenomenal player. He is a good player, but he's not a superstar yet. He's got a long ways to go, as would any rookie safety. And then Ricardo Allen is fine. He's a starting caliber safety. He does come down in my Madden rating just a little bit outside of that 80 range, which is where you're really getting into star players, which I don't think Ricardo Allen is. And the depth at safety is not the best. You got Kamal Ishmael, Sherrod Naismith, Akeem King, and not the best group of safeties. And then I did forget to mention DeMonte Kazee, a 5th round pick at corner for the Falcons as well. So it's such a tough defense to project. I think it's the reason Vegas has these guys at 9.5 wins. No one really knows which defense we're going to get from these guys. Is it going to be that defense that almost shut out Tom Brady in the first half, or is it going to be the defense that crumbles and looks inexperienced all year? I lay somewhere in between. I think I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on some of these guys. I want to see more, but with a regressing offense and who knows defense, what do you guys think? Who do you think wins this division? Do you think the Falcons are going to win the Super Bowl this year, as a lot of people think they might? Let me know in the comments below. That's all I got. I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you are enjoying this series. Consider giving it a like if you are. So peace out, everyone. We'll see you for the next one.